Who were the actors that you were watching when you were seeing cinema, when you're seeing film, when you're coming along, that where you thought, okay, that person is inspiring me. That person's showing me the way.
I mean, my two big heroes are probably Sydney Poitier and Daniel Day-Lewis. My mom's favorite film was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Yeah.
So we would watch that time and time again. And his poise, someone who looked like, I get emotional just thinking about it, but someone who looked like me, and had the bearing of my father and my uncles. And that was just not something you saw almost at all. Certainly not in films that were universally acclaimed, like In the Heat of the Night as well, which is just a formative piece of cinema for me. But then also just seeing Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, and just thinking, I simply do not understand how it is possible for an actor to achieve that level of embodiment. When I found out he was able-bodied, when I heard him speak, and he was so opposite to that. It was the moment I determined that as an actor, the thing I want to aspire to be the most is chameleonic. Someone who you roll to roll, you're going, which way is he going to go next? Because that's what I love about Daniel Day-Lewis. That's what I love about Christian Bale. That's what I love about what I get to do, is I have no interest in playing some kind of version of myself. I always want to go to the character.
Yeah, there's obviously a tradition in movies where someone's always playing a version of themselves, and
Right.
and not just Americans, but worldwide, people make room for that, and they really like it. Some of the iconic movie stars are just playing, you almost want to laugh when they say, well, my character in this. You're like, what do you mean your character in this?
Right.
I'm sorry, Clint Eastwood, I love you.
Right.
But you're always,
Right.
let me guess, you're squinting, you're a man of few words, and you're going to kick the shit out of somebody if they wrong you.
Yeah. And we love you for it.
And we love you for it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We love you for it. But this idea of that you can shapeshift, you say that you look at, Daniel Day-Lewis, and when you first saw him, I said, I don't understand. And I look at what you do, and I think, I don't understand. I don't understand it. I have incredible admiration for it, but almost it's mystical to me. It's something that's so far beyond anything that I could do, and I love to see. It's very inspiring that you use this gift to, you use it for a very noble purpose, which I think is a lovely thing.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad you used the phrase mystical, because this is where you can kind of get into what kind of feels conceited territory.
Yep.
But to me, in the moment of playing Dr. King, or even with Bass Reeves, I remember us shooting on an actual plantation, and it was a plantation where 80 people had been enslaved back in the day. It was an incredibly difficult place to shoot, because I kid you not, the ghosts of that fact were present, and the nature of the scenes that we were doing were all the more difficult, all the more true, all the more lived in for that fact. And there is a kind of exchange that is mystical, spiritual, and it's about how much you're prepared to open yourself up to that in order to be flowed through by the history, by the writing, by the direction, by the other actors, with the audience in mind. What are you, by way of service, offering up to them? And what we do, what I am so privileged to do, is you're constantly in the pursuit of trying to capture lightning in a bottle. And there are certain circumstances under which there is more likelihood for that to happen than others. And it's about an openness. And that openness, if I've done my work, if I am staying to a certain degree in the character, if I'm open to what is coming at me by way of stimulus, that has been the moments where, even now when I watch Selma, I have a complete disconnection from it, because I was in a place I almost can't fully quantify or understand because of the alchemy of what was happening in that moment. And that's the joy, that's the benefit of when you're doing it at the highest level with directors like Ava DuVernay and incredible actors around you and great writing. It's a mystical thing.
You mentioned something that I completely believe in. Of course, it makes sense that you go back to a plantation and pick up on this trauma. You know what I mean? That you would, and that would inform what you're doing.
I'm so glad that you've talked about this, because it's one of the tricky things as a producer you face when you're trying to tell a true story and you go, oh yeah, there's a good tax break in Canada and you go, actually with this story, I think we've got to fight to be in the place. And every time it has yielded intangible but indisputable benefits. You know, we had that. We shot on the Edmund Pettus Bridge for Selma. We were there. We were on the Montgomery State House steps where Dr. King gave that speech. And it's going to sound so crazy, but that morning of giving that speech, the FBI had told him, you will be assassinated if you do that speech. It's too open. We have no way to protect you. And he chose to give that speech anyway. And I woke up with this just overwhelming sense that I was going to be assassinated that day. I know it doesn't fully make sense, but it wasn't till the end of that day where we had shot the scene and it was done, I found myself going, gosh, I'm still alive. And it was to do with being in that place. We shot a United Kingdom in Botswana. They wanted us to shoot it in South Africa. There was a completely different vibe from being there. Same thing with Queen of Cartway, shooting it in Cartway. There is energy that you pick up, finds its way onto the celluloid, finds its way through the screen into the audience. And at the end of the day, the true job of a storyteller is the pursuit of the truth. And the audience can feel when they are getting a watered down version of that. And you come out just going, the film was okay. You're not necessarily saying it wasn't true, but when you have been served up something that feels truly authentic, it speaks to the human being in you, which is why the best films we love, you have a protagonist that you can tether yourself to and you go, I am relating to this character. I am working out what I would do in this scenario. That's because they are a three-dimensional, believable human being that you can relate to.
I'm invested in them too.
That's it.
I'm invested in them. I really care what happens to this person.
Right. And that can only happen if it's true, if it feels true to what it is to be a human being.
Well, I could talk to you for 50 hours. I seriously could.
Likewise.
And it's the delightful thing. There are many delightful things about you, but the fact that we started out, there's so much just laughing, just really good natured humor, and then we get to this other place that's really beautiful. That's my favorite kind of podcast conversation. And I shouldn't even say podcast conversation. That's my favorite kind of conversation. Yeah, mine too. It really means a lot to me. So go forth, continue to do great things.
Thank you.
And I am just a massive fan. You're welcome here anytime.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And, if you see a really good part for me as a producer.
A statuesque blonde.
A statue.
You could have ended. You could have ended it.
I'm just saying.
You could have ended it.
A sort of a...
You did end it.
Later in life Marilyn, just before the end.
Wrap it
I
up.
can see you being a great incompetent senator. I can see that. In Coriolanus.
I'm there.
Fabulous.
I am there. And
maybe
trust
not
me,
your production. I don't think you.
And you know what?
He'd bring it down.
You know what I love?
Okay.
David would be recommending me to every other Shakespeare producer in London. And they'd be like, well, how come you don't? How come you don't? No. I think he's better for you. He's going to be fantastic.
His reviews rave. And all the other ones.
Exactly. I'd be like, yes, mission accomplished. We took him down.
Conan O'Brien has ruined yet another Shakespearean play.
Every time you play a role, you cast him in the...
David, bless you. Thank you so much for being here.
This was great.